Hi, this is Jamey with Stonemeyer Games, and I'm here today to talk about my favorite game mechanism in Roll for the Galaxy. Roll for the Galaxy is if you can't tell by the name, it's a dice rolling game where you are exploring other planets and developing them and settling them and getting resources from them. You're all doing this using these dice that you're rolling, mostly behind a screen. And then you're kind of revealing and taking an action that you choose, and then possibly also activating actions that other players have chosen, other types of actions. It's a very clever system to use to keep everyone engaged. But my favorite mechanism of this game is actually something really simple. It happens at the very beginning of the game, and it's something I love about Roll for the Galaxy and some other games that do this, including some games that I've designed. And that is, at the beginning of the game, you start with two different tiles. I think you start with one on the settlement side and one on the development side. And so there are a bunch of starting tiles in the game. You randomly choose two of them. They're both double-sided, so one has settle develop and the other has settle develop, and you choose one or the other. And you start with them on your player mat as your starting settlements to start out with. And I believe they count as things that you've already settled or developed. And I love this type of mechanism at the beginning of the game where there's asymmetry that happens when you're pairing two different random elements. And I love it because it exponentially increases the amount of setup variability in the game. So this game could have just had each player starting with one, say, settlement tile. And there would have been, say, 10 random settlement tiles. You pick one. Could have even been double-sided, so there could be 20 choices. You could be the back or the front. And so there's 20 different choices. But by having two different tiles that you're pairing together, you double the... actually, no, it's not double. You square it. You square the number. So instead of having... say 10 different combinations, you would have 100 different combinations that you could possibly come up with. And I hope I'm doing the math here, or this is going to be really embarrassing. But you get the idea that because you're pairing things, you really increase the variability in setup. I've done this in a couple of my games. So I did it with the Mamas and Papas and Viticulture. Mamas and Papas are some variable resources that you start out with when you play Viticulture or Tuscany. And you get a Mama card and you get a Papa card, and you put them together, and that's your starting resource. So instead of just having one card, you have these two different pairings. There's 18 of each of them. So there's a ton of different combinations that you can come out with. It took a little while to balance, like to try to balance those cards, and there's even some debate as to whether or not they are truly balanced, but they're really close. And also inside, it's an even bigger amount of asymmetry in the game, because you're pairing your faction mat. There are 5 faction mats. You're with one of 5 player mats, and the player mats all have the same actions on them, but they're in different orders. There's different combinations on the player mats, and the faction mats are all very unique. And so instead of just having 5 different factions in the game that are set, and that's what you get, you're pairing those 5 factions with those different player mats, creating 25 different combinations. Creates a lot of replayability there and a lot of variability in the setup. So this is I would say of all the mechanisms I talked about in this video series, this is a fairly easy one to add to games. It's just changing the mindset from picking one thing that becomes an asymmetric variable starting position or starting resource, and instead of just doing one, pair it with another one. And you create so many new combinations there, so many potential combinations. So if you have any other examples of games that do this, I'd love to hear about them. I'm sure there are a ton that I'm not thinking of. And so I'd love to hear your favorite game that has this type of variable pair in a setup. Thanks.